Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Melanin Margin, the weekly chat show where conversations about race are never off the table. We're your hosts, Quaviondre Williams.
And Daquon Wilson.
So let's get into this week's conversation. What's hot on the table this week? In an article written by Paige Galloway on ET, we learned that on Tuesday, Wendy Williams' ex, Kevin Hunter, filed a lawsuit against Debbar Mercury, the producer distributor of The Wendy Williams Show, for unlawful termination. According to court docs obtained by ET, Hunter claims that Debbar Mercury's decision to terminate him was on the basis of his marital status. A company spokesman for Debbar Mercury had no comment. Hunter was one of the reasons behind the Wendy Williams' show's tremendous success. And everything seemed to go south after he left, Abe George, Hunter's attorney, told ET in a statement. Mr. Hunter was unlawfully terminated solely due to his marital status to Wendy, which is contrary to human rights laws in NYC. This lawsuit seeks to compensate Mr. Hunter for the sweat equity that he put into the show that Debbar Mercury will continue to profit on even in their new reincarnation of the Wendy Williams Show. Hunter and Williams tied the knot in 1997, and the TV show personality filed for divorce in April 2019. Just days later, Hunter claims that he received a written notice from Debbar Mercury that he was fired as executive producer of The Wendy Williams Show and that he was no longer allowed on the studio premises. So, Daquon, I wanted to ask you, is it ever a good idea to work with someone you are in a relationship with, or do you think there should be a degree of separation between your work life and home life?
If there is one thing I know and two things for certain, it's 10 times out of 9, it's not a good idea to work with your spouse. Absolutely a bad idea. Because I think that, sure, it can work out in certain situations, and there are successful businesses that were built by couples and their relationships still flourish or thrive or whatever. But I think that it's a bad idea because so often that will lead to work ending up being the same as home and creating a cohesion of your work and your home life that isn't necessarily productive for you. So you may be bringing work home and your spouse may be bringing work home. And then if anything happens on a business level that there creates some type of clash, imagine how that's going to manifest in the relationship at home. I know that there are people who do have strong boundaries and can set those boundaries, but I think more often than not, those boundaries break and things happen that are not pleasant.
Yeah, I kind of want to echo what you're saying because in theory, it sounds like a good idea, but
Right.
very rarely does it work in practice. Um, when you start to mix your career relations with someone that you're dating, the waters can get muddy really fast, especially if you aren't on the same level in whatever business you're doing. You see,
Right.
if one of you is higher up, it can create a conflict of interest, favoritism, or worse, retaliation should your relationship fail. And even if you are on the same level, I think that there is still a chance that because you're dating, you may not hold your partner as accountable for their half of the work as you would if they were just, a coworker. I mean, it's natural to want to make things easier for your partner because you love them. And when it comes to your career, if you aren't helping, if they aren't helping you pull the weight of whatever workload you've been assigned, it can cause resentment and problems in the relationship moving forward. There have been several actors who have dated and broken up because one of them makes it big and the other doesn't, or when partners can't seem to find pride in an opportunity that their partner has received because they haven't received that same opportunity. And of course, that may have something to do with, self-esteem issues, imposter syndrome, and other issues that you should probably have under control before you get into a relationship with someone. But that's an entirely different conversation.
Right.
For those rare situations where working with a romantic partner has worked, it's usually because those partners know that their individual success means success for both of them. And they understand that if they both are working towards the same goal, they can combine their efforts to get to that goal much faster than if they were doing it on their own. But again, you have to be in an incredibly healthy mindset and headspace to be able to do this effectively. So I don't think that it's a good idea for the everyday person to be in a relationship with someone they work with. And yes, I do think that there should be a separation between work and home because again, not many people have the mental tools to be able to turn off their work brain, especially when work comes home with you and sleeps in the same bed as you. So for the majority of people, when work and home start to meld together, like you said, when it comes to that sort of kind of cohesion, it becomes a breeding ground for chaos and discord. I mean, without a shadow of a doubt.
Right. And I love how you brought up, acting, because I think especially in creative fields where the kind of logistics or day to day is kind of up in the air and there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
more work that you have to do in these creative fields than say like an office jobs where you have like
Mm-hmm.
very specific metrics that you need to hit and like everything like that, where it's a little bit more streamlined.
Yeah.
In a creative field, there's so much that could go wrong, especially like if you have an actor who is dating their agent and like
Or the
that could
director.
cause so many trouble. And it's also like, Hollywood is a industry that talks.
Yeah.
Yes, every industry talks, but like I think especially in creative industries, it's really more about who you know versus what you know.
Yeah.
And I think that can cause a lot of problems because if somebody's mad at you, they may not say the best things about you. If that relationship ends, they may not say the best things about you. But it also creates a situation where they can become jealous. I think, like you were talking about before, if people are in different positions,
Yeah.
if, say, you are dating your manager and your manager slash agent has an opportunity come to them and being like, I don't want this person to get this big right now. So they decline that position
Mm.
without you even seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
That can really stop all of these different career opportunities you would have had, but your partner doesn't see it fit for you. And
Yeah.
so I think that's another reason why you don't really want to mix personal and business because it can cause so many different rifts in a relationship.
Yeah, and I wanted to also ask you, Daquon, like, how much influence do you think that romantic partners have on each other's success? Because, we hear in this argument with Kevin Hunter that he's like, oh, yeah, after I left, everything started to fall downhill. So, what's your thoughts on that?
I think that is one of these things where I'm not sure in this situation with Wendy Williams, all the behind the scenes things
Yeah.
that Hunter has been
Yeah.
working
Mm-hmm.
on. But I do think that romantic partners can have a big impact on your
Mm-hmm.
success. I think like when we talked about in a previous episodes about things like having passion and ambition and how like sexy that is,
Mm-hmm.
it's also something that can push your partner forward because if you are constantly grinding trying to make yourself better and like do that, then like your partner could see that and then want to do that themselves, or vice versa where it's like, you're constantly grinding, they're constantly grinding, somebody slips up and it's like, oh, what's going on, like let's
What's popping?
let's get
Yeah.
to business, like let's get these things going. So I do think that it can have a big impact on somebody's success. But again, in this particular situation, I don't really know the details with Hunter.
Yeah, I was more looking for like that idea on the higher end because it's like, specifically just in general the influence that people have because this was a really hard question for me to think about. You see, at
Hmm.
first I thought, well, unless your partner is working with you directly, they don't have any influence on your success. But then I had to sit down with myself and really dig deeper because I live alone, right? So I pay all of my bills, clean everything, cook everything, and so forth. So the amount of time that I have to work on the things that truly matter to me, my passions, isn't as extensive as it would be for someone who had a roommate, for instance. With that in mind, if I was dating someone and they lived in the same house as me, the idea is that I'd be splitting the house workload with them 50-50, right?
Right.
Because I'm splitting the bills now. I don't have to work a second job. I only have to cook, every other day and clean the house every other day, which would free up more time for me to focus on the things I love doing, like writing, performing, and so on. And then I thought, well, what if I had kids? And the same could be applied there. I only have to manage the kids half of the time versus all of the time if I were a single parent. And then there's the idea of how much does your partner invest in your talents and dreams? Like, did they buy you a new computer or microphone, ring light, camera, or editing software that helped give you that edge? Did they stay up with you all times of the night to help you work through a plot line, edit a video, record you? Or hell, did they help you heal from a trauma in your past that allowed you to get out of a depression so that you could get back to your passion? There are just so many ways in which people could be involved with your success, especially someone you're in a relationship with. So while I think that the influence does vary, I think it would be impossible to say that your partner has absolutely no influence at all on your success whatsoever, because help to any degree is still helping. But when it comes to the idea of compensation, like whether or not they deserve it, I don't know. I think that probably might be more tied directly to how much their influence has contributed to your success. You know what I mean? Like, is that making
Right.
sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I also think that, again, really being specific to creative fields, yes, it's like you have more time to do things, but I think especially with something like Wendy Williams, I feel like Wendy Williams' success is because of her personality. So no
Yeah.
matter what you do as a human being, you can't really change
Yeah.
somebody else's personality. Yes, you may give them a little bit more time to hone their craft, to like
Yeah.
get out there and do something like that. And that's like, yes, that is an influence that can positively affect someone. But I think the core of why Wendy Williams was so successful is because of who she is as a person. And that's not
Exactly.
something that I think can be easily influenced.
Yeah, I think it's such a weird position because, like, on the one hand you're like, well, they're your partner, so we don't know the ins and outs of directly how much someone has helped someone, or how much someone has even developed their personality, because people do change based off the people that they're around, people that they're with, and stuff like that. But also I think it's just one of those muddied waters of, like, if we go with that idea, then we have to say, well, when you went to the store that one time and that lady said X, Y, and Z, was that influence, or because of whatever? So I think it's like you said, I think that when it comes to this specific circumstance, I don't know. Obviously, neither one of us know what's going on in their house. But I do think that, if there is direct stuff, like as in, if me and Daquon were dating and we're doing the show, it's 50-50. So at the end of the day, we're splitting that straight down the middle kind of situation. Whereas if Daquon was doing a show and I happen to be like, oh, hey, Daquon, what's popping? Let me just pop in a little bit to say, hey, how you doing? That's not really a direct linkage to the success of the both of us, because at the end of the day, it was just me popping in versus me being a direct person involved in that. Like, if in this situation, if Kevin Hunter was actually on the show with Wendy and it was Wendy Williams and Kevin, whatever, then that would be something different. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree, because I think that this notion that Kevin Hunter is the reason for its success really overshadows that the Wendy Williams show has an entire team. There are so many
Exactly.
people who are on production, staffing, everything like that. So to kind of summate everything that creates the success to one person is really just overshadowing the entire team.
And it honestly diminishes, and it honestly talk back to what you were saying too about patriarchy. It diminishes the fact that this woman ate this game up. Whether or not you
Right.
like Wendy Williams or not, she did what she did.
Exactly. In an industry where So many of the big radio stars turn into TV stars are men.
Mhm.